Thank you, everyone, for joining. This is the Women in the AEC Industry Panel. We have fantastic speakers today. I'm very excited. My name is Monica Mosier. I am the Chief Administrative Officer with MS Consultants. I will be the MC for today's discussion. A little bit of ground rules before I go ahead and introduce our panel speakers. Just good protocol for these virtual meetings is that while you're not talking, if you can please mute. We're super happy to have everyone have their video on if you're comfortable with it. If not, keep it off. We will have questions, a Q&A session at the very end where you are welcome to unmute and ask questions. If you want to remember what question you have at any time, please put it into the chat section. And if you have a specific question for a specific speaker, just please remember to put the speaker's name that you want to answer in that question. So without further delay, I'm going to introduce our panelists. So first is Jessica French. She is a senior project manager with the Cuyahoga County Department of Public Works. For over a decade, Jessica has worked at the city, county, and state levels, managing transportation projects, acquiring right-of-way, and obtaining grant funding. Jessica enjoys running slowly, me as well, I'm sure the group, and Lakewood, where she shares a home with her spouse, 2 children, and 2 dogs. Jessica is also an attorney, so a JD. So wave to the audience, Jessica. Thank you for joining us. Jeanna Hondel, PE, is the president and CEO of Ascension Construction Solutions, a woman-owned certified minority business. Jeanna works with private and public sector clients, leading them in construction management, inspection, coordination, risk analysis, and more. And congrats to Jeanna. Her company is going to be 5 years old in October. So congrats there. Thank you for joining us. Next is marydietsch, AIA. She is the principal architect and creative director of marydietsch Architecture and Design, a collaborative interdisciplinary architecture and interior design studio. Mary values a holistic approach to design, attention to detail, respect for the history of people and place, and authentic collaboration with clients in the community. Mary is active in mentoring through AIA's licensure study group and has served on multiple NCARB committees. Thank you, Mary, for joining us. And last but not least, Frances Rubio Rourke, PE, is the senior project manager at the Columbus office of OHM Advisors. Frances has spent the last 25 years in the transportation industry working with clients such as the Ohio Department of Transportation and several counties and municipalities throughout Ohio. Additionally, Frances has been a member of the Women's Transportation Seminar, also known as WTS, Columbus chapter since 2005. So thank you for joining us, everyone. So I'm going to start off with our first question. We have 3 questions to ask here, but the first is, how did you decide on your career path? So going in order here, I'd love to start with Jessica for this answer and question.
Good afternoon, everyone. My career evolved. What I wanted to do, this was not originally right away in transportation, considering I'm an attorney. Not my original plan. However, it turned out wonderful in the end. I have a economics degree and Middle Eastern North African Studies degree from North Carolina State University. I wanted to go into real estate development, things like Steelyard Commons or Crocker Park or things like that. So the natural progression of that is to go to law school. So I went to law school, I did my time, passed the bar, everything was, going smoothly, and then recession hit, and I graduated at the peak of the recession. Both my mentors were out of jobs, so it was one of those situations where there was no way for me to get a job, in the career path that I originally wanted. So I just tried to find anything with real estate that I could find, and I found a job with the Department of Transportation in their real estate department. I ended up loving it, succeeding, just continuing on and being where I am now. Definitely a change, but I still, in a lot of ways, I am not the part of the development, but I help people get to those developments. So it's a little change, but kind of in a similar realm from my original goals.
Awesome. It's hard to think about sometimes where these negative things such as a recession can shape positively our lives into the future. So that's so interesting. Thank you for the insights there. Jeanna, how about you next?
So I got to tell you two stories. One, how I got into engineering, and then how I got from there to where I am now. So it started off when I was in high school. I took a drafting class, was pretty good at it. And my teacher would ask, what are you going to do in college? I'm like, I'm going to run, because I ran track. I was an athlete in school. And he was like, okay, but what are you going to do? I'm like, the 200, the 400. And he's like, Jeanna, what are you going to study? And that was literally the first time that I thought about what I was actively going to study. So from there, he started providing me with brochures and, taking me to different universities, within Ohio. And Youngstown State University had one of the best programs in Ohio for civil engineering at the time. And so that's what I ended up doing. I found that I really didn't like electrical, or, now I know enough to be dangerous, or, chemical engineering. So I'm just like, you're telling me this chair that I'm sitting in, if I remove one atom away, it's no longer a chair. And my mind just couldn't grasp that. So physical things, civil, structural, all those things, transportation, construction management are things that I excel in. So that's how I ended up getting into civil engineering. Then my first position, as a young woman, everyone here knows that, women only make up about 9% of the construction industry and less in the engineering fields overall. So the diversity, you really don't see. And I always felt like I just didn't fit. And so as I grew my education and my experience in the construction industry, I had a love for entrepreneurship. I got my MBA from Capital University. And that was the first time I kind of put my construction management business plan together, was like in 2008. But at the time, like, don't have enough experience yet, didn't have my PE quite yet. So again, with time and experience, I decided that I wanted to go ahead and launch Ascension. And, the support of my husband and my family, it has taken off, and just support of my network in general, and people that I didn't even know, really took hold, and helped to shape and mold, Ascension that you see today. So it does take a community to grow a child, and a business as a child as well. So from infancy up until now. So that's kind of my story of how I got into it. But the biggest thing I always joke with people, I tell them that, again, I just didn't feel like I fit. So it's like, if I start a company and I still can't fit, then the common denominator is me and not everybody else. So I'm glad that, things are going well. But yeah, that's kind of my story of how I got into civil engineering and being the president and CEO of Ascension Construction Solutions.
Wonderful story. Thank you, Jeanna. Mary, how about you next? How did you decide on your career path? Oh,
I'm the first one to pay. Okay. So studying architecture, that was a really easy decision. I was always drawn to art and design, and also was good at math, and it just seemed like a really good fit. Absolutely loved architecture school. I went to the University of Notre Dame, and we had a great program. It's such a comprehensive education. It was a perfect fit, loved it. But then after graduating, I wasn't sure that I wanted to be an architect. So that's where I took a few detours and worked overseas with Habitat for Humanity, building houses in Africa. And then when I returned, I still wasn't sure about being an architect. I had always loved art, and I started pursuing some of my passion for art and working as an artist. Eventually, I felt like, okay, I should give architecture another try. And I came back to it and started working in the field again. And I feel like all of the things that I did that were not architecture actually really informed my work when I started doing architecture again. And my art background and my construction background that I gained when I was working with Habitat for Humanity, it really helped me put the details together, and also feel confident about my style and what I could offer. So I tend to lean a little bit more towards interior environments as an architect, which is not typical, and that's okay. I think it took me a long time to be okay with my particular way of being an architect. You always feel like, oh, I should be designing, you know, big buildings or developments, and that's not the only thing that architecture is. So I think I eventually, after a lot of great experience with a grad here in Columbus, I decided to form my own firm, and I feel like it is a unique offering where I am holistically looking at architecture and interior design as from one point of view, and clients seem to appreciate that, and it's so far been successful. I'm just about 3 years into it, and love being on my own, and still collaborating with so many other architects and engineers around Columbus, and that's been a great experience. So that's how I got here.
Wonderful. I think, you know, what struck me there, and everyone's answers so far, is that really being authentic to yourself. All these journeys are very different, but you know, taking your own path and being okay with it, and it working out. So, but Frances, really want to hear from you, last but not least, on you know, how'd you decide on your career path?
Thank you. A lot of it was taking opportunities. When opportunities show up, I took them. My father is an electrical engineer. My mom's brother is a civil engineer, architect, and city planner. My dad worked on a Union Carbide, a plant, but he did, to make some money, will help my uncle, who will come to our house with plants, and my dad will do the electrical for the plants. And this is in the days when you had the drafting table. So I grew up having a drafting table in my house, and I was very close to my dad. So when my uncle will come, I will just be there quietly watching them and seeing the plans. So just like Jeanna, you know, I was good with math and the science, and the problem solving was fun for me. I didn't like memorizing things. I was not good with the writing and stuff. So engineering just felt like it fit. I even consider architecture too. But one thing led to another. I decided engineering, and then I went into this, I decided civil. But as most people in the audience know, civil is still pretty broad. I mean, there's so much to do within civil. You have geotech, construction, water resources, blah, blah, blah. So that's when I started taking opportunities. When opportunities show up, I took them. So in college, I had an opportunity to work with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And that was kind of fun, as they didn't do much design. They just took me to all the lakes and reservoirs, but I did learn about the dams and how they operated, and that kind of looked fun for a while. For a little bit, I wanted to go into construction, and I have a lot of ideas of what I wanted to do, but at the end, when you're graduating, whatever job you can get, you get, right? So I worked with a small company in Lancaster, and they did pretty much about everything: development, bridges, and roads. So I get a little bit of experience in everything. I got tired of commuting. You know, I was still young. I wanted to be more where the fun was, which for me was Columbus. So I found a job with a smaller company that all they did was commercial development as it relates to restaurants like McDonald's, Taco Bell. Bob Evans was a big client. It was like repetitious thing. I did not feel challenged. So then I interviewed with R.D. Zandy, which now it's Stantec. And the position that was open was in the transportation group. I did mention that I was interested in bridges and roads. So they put me in the bridge team, but if there was a small project that was just a bridge replacement, I had to do the road for them. So I got experience doing both bridge and roadways. I switched companies again doing both, but the opportunity came for a promotion to run the roadway group. So I took it. So, you know, and then kept getting advanced, but that's how I ended up with roadway. I still have the bridge background. I still know enough about bridge to be dangerous. But you know, now I'm a more senior project, managing the entire project and growing, helping with the transportation group here. So
Wonderful. Well, thank you all for sharing that. Now for the tough ones. Second question is, what's the biggest, it's a two-part, what's the biggest hurdle you faced as a woman in the industry, and how did you overcome it, right? So we'll go in the same order again to keep things easy for everyone. So Jessica, would love to put you on the spot for this one.
I feel like I need to have a two-part question, just because when you're in the beginning of your field or career, things are, you know, you have different obstacles than when you're a little bit later in life with kids and, you know, other responsibilities. So I would say at the beginning of my career, my biggest hurdle was gaining trust. I would walk into many rooms and I was one of the only women, if not the only woman in the room, whether it was with attorneys or engineers or whoever. And it seems to create problems with getting like the big projects, like the important projects. I don't know why, but it seems like some conversations are done in a bathroom, which obviously I did not have access to that bathroom to, you know, discuss these things. So a lot of, you know, sometimes it did create a little bit of a bias. The way I overcame that was that I just threw myself into every meeting I could possibly throw myself into. Kind of invited myself into meetings. Oh, I'll sit into this meeting, or we had committees that came up, always volunteered, which means when you volunteer for these meetings or, you know, for these committees, people tend to know who you are, you know, your name is in their head at all times. So when a big project comes up after you start doing all of these things, your name just kind of pops in their head, which is great. So that kind of helped me get started with bigger projects, better jobs, you know, going on to that. Lately, I think I would say I am not over this hurdle. So, you know, this is a work in progress. I think my biggest hurdle is the achievement of perfectionism. I think a lot of women have this thought of everything needing to be perfect. There was a TED Talk, oh geez, I would say at least like 5 or 6 years ago. It was right before I started having children, or right after I started having children, excuse me. So it was called Teach Girls to Be Brave, Not Perfect. And I think that's a big obstacle that at least women my age have, of thinking that they need to be the perfect either parent, spouse. I'm a caretaker for my mother, so a caretaker, and be perfect at your job all at the same time. And sometimes that's just not possible. And, you know, you can be successful and achieve goals even when things are a little dicey. Still working on that perfectionism, but you know, we're getting through it.
Absolutely. I'm internalizing that hit my heart. I don't know how the rest of you feel. Brave, not perfect. It's a great TED Talk. I think it was like I can't remember, 2016, 2015, somewhere around there. Highly recommend it. So good. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Jeanna, how about you next? Some insights there.
I'm going to give 3. And I'd say the first one, the biggest hurdle, and I don't know if it's just me, or maybe a more larger, you know, women, or just our industry in general, but imposter syndrome. You know, a lot of times, especially when I was first starting out, like, did I really win that project on my own? Or, you know, did they just give it to me? You know what I mean? And so like that was a big piece of it, like understanding my worth, understanding that my company brings value. So that was a big one. And then how I overcame that, honestly, it's kind of a fake it till you make it kind of deal. You know what I mean? You have to exude confidence, and then, you know, you practice that enough. It's kind of like, you know, when you look in the mirror, affirmations like I am good enough, I am great, you know what I mean? You do that long enough and you actually become that. So the same thing with negative talk. If you speak negatively to yourself often enough, then that's the vision or that's the view you have. So that's one thing. And again, you know, like Jessica mentioned, a lot of these things are a work in progress. It's not that, you know, you overpass it, then you hit another ceiling, you overpass it. So it's a growth process. The second one, time management. When I first started the company, you know, it was just me and my husband was working for a different company at the time. So I had all day. I would, you know, work all day, get up, have an idea, write that down, you know, work never stopped. But now I have a 13-month-old. And so like that time management and understanding those important things. So, you know, my goal and how I'm getting over that is, for one, spending time, you know, those moments with your children or your family are irreplaceable. They're incalculable. You know, you cannot, like, you can't get those moments back. So, you know, when my son comes in my office and, you know, teetering around and, you know, I stop what I'm doing. He attends a few meetings. Everybody kind of knows him by name, like, oh, we're no Gideon today. They're looking around. But the goal is that, yes, we have a company, we want to provide a service, but also you want to have a healthy work balance. And my goal is, like, at the end of the day, I want to be that mom that never has to say, no, son, mommy can't because she's working. And so that's important to me, and that work-life balance, and just, you know, cutting out chunks of time, you know, taking breaks, or, hey, 5:30, that's my cutoff time. No matter what, this is the time that I'm spending with my family. And then the last one, I guess it's a hurdle, but like age, you know, even now, sometimes I go on project sites, by the time you pull your hair up and put your hard hat on, they're like, are you the intern? I'm like, oh, thank you, but no. But, you know, so that's a big thing too. So gaining the respect, you know, a lot of times our male counterparts, that respect is automatically given. You know, you're automatically assumed to be competent, where I feel as women sometimes, or maybe again, it's in our own heads, we feel like we have to overcompensate to make sure that our peers are understanding that we're just as capable, if not more. But again, I only get a day older every day. So it's kind of like just managing expectations, but more so how I'm getting over that. It's just being comfortable in my skin. I am who I am. I speak the way I speak. A lot of people tend to think it's aggression. I call it passion. But, you know, those are the things. You just have to be your authentic and true self, and the rest will come with experience and time as you get comfortable with yourself.
Authenticity. Love it, Jeanna. Mary, you next. Hurdles, and how did you overcome it?
I mean, this is a great conversation for sure, and everyone's speaking the truth. I feel like for me, one of the biggest early hurdles, and still continues, is just trusting the value of your contribution. And I feel like that even was more exacerbated when I was a younger mother and I had a young child. Trying to find that work-life balance was hard, and I worked part-time for a lot of years when my daughter was younger. And, you know, from, you know, maybe 4-hour half days for a while, and then I just worked school hours for years and years until she was about 12. And I always felt like, oh, I'm doing less, but looking back at it now, those were some of the most productive years of my life in terms of the work output that I did at that time. And I feel really proud of that. I think when you have those kind of struggles between work and home, you just need to find focus. And I feel like I was able to do that when I went to the office. I was at the office, I was really focused on the work I was doing. And like I'm saying, I feel like even if I was only there for half a day versus an 8-hour day, or 9 or 10, or however many some of us do sometimes, I just really focused on the work I was doing, and I feel like I made really valuable contributions. But it's really hard to tell yourself that when you're in it. But I think you really can, and you know, you have to respond to your family situation, and you need to, like Jeanna was saying, you can't get those moments back. So finding that balance is really important, and don't be afraid to make that situation work for you, because you can really do great work in, you know, working part-time or making your schedule more flexible. And I think we're getting to an era where that is really much more easily happening. So I think that's great. People can start making, you know, more flexible schedules, but really just the key is to value those contributions that you're making, no matter what, because that's how you grow your skills and you get more confidence, and you definitely need that in this industry.
Really great things to remember. Thank you. Frances, again, last but not least.
Hurdle, I don't know if it's a hurdle, but I have to say, I think I was a little bit naive when I was younger in college. I have a sister, she's 4 years older than me, and she when she went to college, so she was a freshman in college, I was a freshman in high school. She went to computer science, and she was the only girl in the classroom. One of the teachers in a class was a real jerk and told her directly, it's like, what are you doing here? Women don't belong in my class. Really traumatized her. Needless to say, she's not in computer science right now. But I heard that story. I mean, I'm very close to my sister. I have 3 brothers. She's the only sister I have, so we're close. So when I went into engineering, I was kind of nervous. Like, that's what I was waiting to see, but I feel, well, if I'm prepared mentally, I'll be okay. So I get there, you know, the classes, the smaller and more specific, or they get the smaller the room, but then I become the only woman in the room. But to my surprise, I never encounter like what my sister was saying, or what she encountered. I mean, like I said, I have 3 brothers. My dad only has 1 sister. They're very close. She had 5 boys. So I grew up with boys and I was comfortable with them. So for me to be the only woman in the classroom, I was comfortable. And, you know, we're all studying together and we take the tests and we compare grades and things like that. So I felt like I was one of the boys. And then you start on a job and you're all interns or entry level. So you start equally. So I was very naive, thinking like, there's no sexism in the workplace. We're all the same. I belong here. Everyone accepts me. They're my buddies. They're my friends. So I think the culture did change. You know, people accepted women being in this male-dominated field. But when people start, then you get an age that people start getting promoted. And then you see even people younger than you, less experienced, getting promoted. And you're like, what is going on? That's when then I started experiencing the sexism, or, you know, the prejudice or whatever. To the point, I gotta say, Monica mentioned when she introduced me about being involved with WTS. I got involved with WTS because my boss, a male person, you know, pushed me to get involved. And I'm like, I don't need to be in a woman profession. Everyone accepts me. We're cool. But it was very beneficial to me. Like I said, once things started happening, that I noticed like I was not getting advanced as quickly as my male counterparts. It was nice to have that community or explaining what was going on. Not sure if I necessarily overcame it. It's not like I changed my point of view, but I gotta say there was one time at one of my jobs, I just got to the point I had enough, and I don't want to say I had a tantrum, but, you know, I spoke up. It's like, I'm tired of this. You guys are taking advantage of me. I'm leaving. I don't even have a job, but I can't do this anymore. And the company completely turned around, you know, really promoted me, really acknowledged me. So maybe that's how I became it. I spoke up. Things still didn't work. So now I'm an OHM advisors, and I feel comfortable enough now knowing my worth. And I guess that's how I become the hurdle. I spoke up. So quick story, I'm having some challenges with my mom, you know, my dad taking care of her and health issues. And I was getting very stressed. And I even thought about taking a sabbatical, but, you know, I was like, I can do that for a month or afford it for a month, but this is a long term. So I figure it's like, you know what, I'll cut my hours to 30 because that way I continue getting my health benefits, because my husband is self-employed, so we both need the benefits through my job. But I feel comfortable enough to go and talk to my boss and say, this is what's happening. This is what I'm going to do, and I need to do this. And there was no question. So I feel comfortable enough now to say it. And they were very accommodating. They've been great. They've been very flexible. So I think overcoming the hurdle is just speaking up. And I feel like now I do feel that I'm appreciated. I think I'm in a position that it's where I want to be. So
that's wonderful. And again, all such great answers, and another terrific reminder for when to speak up, when to know our worth, and kind of checking ourselves. I think as women in this industry is, why are we compelled not to speak up? Why are we compelled not to know our worth, right? And understanding ourselves and learning from what you all have shared. So thank you so much. Last question. And this time we're going to let Frances go work. So we're going to wear you out. Get a sip of water, Frances.
Well, actually, it works well because it kind of continues what I was saying about speaking up. So,
perfect.
Yeah.
So everyone knows the question is, what advice do you have for young women entering the workforce, right? So a variety of people on the call, and thank you all so much for joining, but this specifically for young women, like, what would you tell them? What's your advice?
So every opportunity that came to me, I accepted it. I say yes, I jumped in, especially, opportunities that were going to benefit me. Even if just to try it, like, you will be a little bit nervous, like, oh, can I do this? And I never was shy away. I never doubted myself. I always figure, like, if they're asking is because they think I can do it. So that means I can do it. And I always say yes. And it worked out for me. The one thing I would have changed, I will tell, like, if I had to talk to young Frances or a young woman, it's like, say yes to all the opportunity, but don't also just wait to be asked. I waited to be asked to say yes. It's fine to ask. They're saying, hey, I want that job. What do I need to do to get it? What would benefit me? Do I need to take some courses? Can you mentor me? So I would say, not just speak up when you're at the limit and you're just fed up. Just speak up and know what you want to do and ask for it and work on it. So speak up.
Terrific advice. Mary, how about you? What advice do you have for young women entering this industry?
So I feel like I have a little note that I wrote in a notebook years and years ago that always comes back to me, just really basic advice, which is never stop trying to be good at your job. Just always having that desire to do a really good job, strive for excellence. I think that's something that I've just always remembered, that little line, and it keeps me going whenever if I have a period of time where I'm feeling I'm struggling a little bit. It's like, no, it's okay. You can always kind of restart and just really try to be good at your job. One of the ways I think that you can do that, and especially we have a pretty complex industry, is to just be intensely curious about your work. It's such an interesting field. Be very curious about the things you're working on specifically, and also about what other people are working on in your field, or even related fields. I feel like you can get so much inspiration and growth by understanding how other people are working and what their design process is. So being intensely curious about it, being really just comprehensively observant about everything that's going on, especially when you're young and you're entering the field, and ask a lot of questions. Don't be afraid to ask people how they develop their skill set, or what their process is. It's, you'll find good mentors by just being curious about other people that you see as successful, that have the position that you might want to have someday. So I think that's that's my advice.
Terrific. Thank you. Jeanna, what advice do you?
My advice, first, I would say that everybody's not given the vision that's for you, right? I believe in God, and I feel like, you know, this is what he gave me. Like, everybody doesn't have the same gifts. And I say that because someone who doesn't understand your vision, doesn't understand your journey, will be the one who tells you that you can't do it. So why let someone who hasn't done it, doesn't have the insight that you have of your goals and your path, make you feel less than, that you can't achieve? So Francis, you mentioned your sister, you know, she's no longer in computer science because of that, you know. So that would be the first thing. The second, I think it's important to have mentors, and to understand that you outgrow mentors. It's good to keep that relationship. So when I first started, you know, the mentors that I had 5 years ago, yes, we're still close, we keep in touch, but I've outgrown that. So I had to find new mentors. So it's good to have people that, you know, are above what you're doing and below. So like grow that, you know, that holistic network. I would say continue to find ways to grow in leadership. A lot of people, especially when you get to a management point, you know, it's about focusing on your team, but you need to be an effective leader. And in order to be an effective leader, you need to continue to grow and invest in yourself. Also, that no is an acceptable answer. A lot of times, I know in my younger career, I got a lot of the grunt work, you know, things that nobody else wanted to do. And, you know, as an engineer, I would get so upset, like, I'm not doing meeting minutes, you know, I'm an engineer, you know, but like, it's a part of it, you know, but if there's something that doesn't sit well with you, if there's something that's against your morals or ethics, no is an acceptable answer, and you can explain why, or no was an explanation in itself. So understand you have that, you know, as a reasoning. And then lastly, our motto at Ascension is to rise above expectations. I know a lot of times when I was growing up, I felt like I had to work twice as hard. I mean, like double minority, right? Woman and African American. So like, I feel like I had to work twice as hard as everybody else. And that can breed contentment, you know, disengagement. But if you change the lens in what you're looking at, so instead of saying like, oh, I got to work doubly hard, no, you're working to rise above the expectations. You're working to be great. So it doesn't matter what everybody's doing over here. You're doing more, and you're going above and beyond, because that's what you think is what's needed from you. And so I think that's a good thing to know. Like, don't compare yourself. The measuring stick isn't against the guy that's sitting next to you. Your measuring stick is, am I doing better or more than I did the day before? How did I improve upon? So those would be my 5, I guess, comments that I would give to young women, even middle management people that can help, you know, progress their careers.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jeanna. All good reminders. Jessica, now you, last but not least.
So many great ones already. I just want to put emphasis on making sure you understand what your abilities are and to promote them. I think a lot of people, I mean, including myself, you know, you get good grades in school, you do all the book things, but then you don't know what you're good at once you get out in the real world. So I think just looking at yourself, inner self, and understanding what makes you you, and what brings out the best in you is going to help you in the long run. And making those abilities known to your superiors. You know, if you're great at something, if you're great at public speaking, which I am not, which is why I do things like this, so that I can better myself, which will be my second point. But if you're great at public speaking, let your superior know that this is something that you're good at, and take every opportunity to do so. And then, you know, work on those things that are your weaknesses. For example, right now, I am not a great public speaker. I get very nervous. However, I put myself in these positions so that I can better myself, and, you know, make myself more of a complete employee, career person, you know, overall just person in general. Definitely look at all sides of yourself and keep growing. And the second part we did talk a lot about speaking up, but I do think that is such a major issue, especially with women, about speaking up. We sit in a lot of meetings, we great listeners. Sometimes we have a lot of ideas and we don't say them. So I would give it to, you know, everyone, women or men, to ensure in every meeting that you say something that helps succeed, you know, or helps promote whatever your meeting is about. Even if you don't come up with a solution, if you come up with a question that helps you reach your goal, bring that question to light. Don't just keep it inside. Make sure you speak up during your meetings. I think that one helps get you noticed, you know, in certain situations, but also, you know, working as a team will promote whatever goal you're trying to succeed.
Great insights. And I'll speak for the group here. We're glad that you, even though it's something you don't think you're good at, which I will say you are good at, thank you for taking that risk on us and joining us for the panel there, Jessica. Well, so, oh my gosh, overwhelmed with the amount of great information. Cannot thank you enough to all of our panelists, but those are all the questions we have, but I would love for the group to unmute mics as needed, enter questions into that chat box so we can answer anything that anyone who has joined the session may have. While individuals do that, I will say one came in from Tommy or Jeanna on how did you decide on your company name? Oh, money in the pot. This is you're on mute, we promise.
Mary, oh man, I did the second one. Geez, I was doing so good. So the company name, I joke and like, oh, we named it with an A, so it's at the top of the list when people look for edge and minority firms. That's just a joke. But so for Ascension, what I did, I started with the core vision of the company. And then from there, I went and started creating, you know, what I wanted the logo to be. And so our logo was actually a phoenix. So a phoenix, if you guys watch, you know, X-Men, Phoenix goes into the fire, comes out amazing on the other side, right? And so from that, we're like, you know what? We want to make sure that we're, you know, everybody in our company has experience. You know, we've been tried by the fire to provide better services to our clients. So by doing that, we're rising above expectations. So you think, again, to rise above expectations, Ascension Construction Solutions. So we're providing excellent, superior services that rise above, you know, our clients' expectations, you know, to make sure that we're solving the problems of our communities and areas that we work in.
Terrific. Any other questions? Feel free to unmute as need be. Ooh, one is in chat. Let's see. From Alicia, how do you deal with differing personality types that may conflict with yours on a day-to-day basis? Thank you for the question, Alicia. Anyone want to take that one?
I don't know. I'll take a shot. I think, I guess I don't know the full context. I don't know if you're saying, you know, negative interactions, but adversity is part of growth. You know, you don't get better. A diamond doesn't be, you know, a lump of coal doesn't become a diamond without pressure. So I would say you need to find commonalities. How can you work together? Everybody isn't the same, and that's good. That's where we get diversity from, right? The differences in where our backgrounds, our education, our thought processes. So depending on, you know, what you're having conflict about, I would look at it as an opportunity to build a relationship and try to understand, one, what's the root cause of the conflict? Is it that you think that person isn't performing, or is it just the differences in ideas? And then maybe work together to try to figure out how you can, massage that. Because like all work environments aren't going to be great. I wish I could sit here and tell you like every project I've been on was like sunshine and roses, but they're not. Like some have been amazing, and other ones, like it was a struggle. Like in my early career, I would go home, my then boyfriend, and be in tears. Just I want to quit. Literally wanted to quit from working, with these people. But again, from that, there's even positive things to take from those situations as well. So if that person is like negative, you learn what you don't want to be in a manager. So whether, so even from that, you can learn, okay, these are negative traits. This is not this is what I want to do differently. If I was in this position, this is what I would do. So those are also opportunities that you could take away, even if it's not the greatest situation to work in.
Thank you. Oh, we have a whole bunch of questions coming in. So everyone knows we will answer as many as we can. We will go past the time if need be, as long as that's okay with our panelists here. So we absolutely want to try to get to everything. So the next one is from Stacy. You've all done a great job looking back, reflecting on your journey to where you are today. What is your hope and aspiration for the next generation of women in the workplace, in society, and in life? Woo, Stacy. Love it. Any insights from the panelists there?
I will answer quickly. Just my aspiration will be equal opportunity. I think that's what's been the issue, both with race problems and female and male, that it's not about being equal, because we're not. We think differently. It's about equal opportunity. And like I was saying, it wasn't just that someone was promoted that I felt maybe were equal to me. It's just, I just didn't know why. And I just don't think they went straight to me, because I can't remember if it was Jessica that mentioned about the bathroom conversations. And it's like, are you only thinking about your buddy and not thinking about everyone else? So it's just equal opportunity for everyone.
Any other insights on that one? Because I know that's a big one. Thank you, Francis. Let me get back to the chat here. Another question from Brittany. How do you handle situations where your male coworkers don't take you seriously or value your opinions and go around you to do something you advised against? Any insights there? Yeah. Mary, I see your eyebrows going up. You want that one.
Sure. I think initially you have to go directly to the person that might be somehow working against you, or you feel is working against you, and just have that direct conversation. Don't be intimidated. You just need to go right to them and keep communication very transparent. I don't think it should be some, behind the scenes gossiping interaction that's going on, but, go directly to the source and let them know you're going to, talk to other people. I think just being very transparent about a situation with everyone that's involved is probably the key to resolving those type of difficult situations.
Mm-hmm. Great insight there. It can be difficult, but transparency and being able to have those hard conversations, I've heard a lot, and it's just as uncomfortable as it is. You just have to do it. Next one from Alex. How has work from home changed your challenges or expectations in work-life balance? And not to put you on the spot, but Jessica, we have not heard from you, so would love to get your insights on that one if you have some.
No, with COVID and everything that's happened with it, my life has pretty much turned upside down, with not just, the schools being closed. My father actually passed away from COVID. So we've had a lot of different situations that have, come through our life due to this work, this different situation, in the last 2 years. So I would say that understanding what's important and our priorities, and I think Mary had talked a little bit about this, is making sure you have, even if you cannot put in your full 8 hours from 9 to 5, exactly at that, you find a way to get everything done. Whether it is just little things like asking for help. I think we talked about perfection and women having a hard time, coming to terms with sometimes we're not perfect, sometimes, not every time, but asking for help when you need it, from family, from hired help, from anywhere where you can find, from your spouse, from anywhere you can find it. Because sometimes if they're out of school and you have to help with school, whatever schoolwork it is, sometimes you need your mother-in-law to watch them on the weekends so you can get some work done. Just understanding that this isn't just life in general, isn't it's not just you, it's a whole community that you can hopefully lean on, and provide some support. Because again, we're not an island, we're part of a bigger picture.
Absolutely. Thank you. Another question came in from S. Connolly. Do you ever experience resistance when you are leading men, and how do you deal with it? Anyone had that?
By being really great at your job. Again, just going back to that advice of, just know that you're good at what you do, be confident, and always, keep trying to improve yourself and be great at your job. And I think that it does come through. The confidence that you have in yourself will come through no matter who you're leading. And when you have that resistance, just stay true to what you know, and value your contribution. And yeah, it comes up a lot. General contractors on sites with females, it often is a very, they don't know what to make of you. They don't think you're in charge, and they do resist your ideas. But if you can provide the explanations behind some of the details that you're asking them to do, or you have the full picture. If you're there in a position of authority, there's a reason for that, and you have the full picture, and you can speak to what you want to happen. So just be great at your job.
Yep. Any other insights there? Unfortunately, I know it happens.
Yeah. So Mary kind of addressed it, I think, more from the architectural side. As you're the designer, you come on site. But as from the construction management side, or if you're a project manager, I kind of want to have that viewpoint. I think it's very important, if you're in that role, that you're intimate with the project documents, and base your thoughts and ideas and facts. So if something, isn't working, why? Try to leave the emotion out of it. Try to remain calm, because I know, especially if it's your idea, and somebody's refuting it, you tend to want to put your emotion there, like, this is a great idea, you know what I mean? But if you can explain why, pull out the plans, flip to the page, or explain why this detail, won't work, or, schedule wise, just being intimate with the project documents will go a long way. I even tell my team that, we need to know the project documents better than the contractor. And that goes into the specifications as well. If you can do that, if you can, and you don't have to memorize the documents, but be 2 weeks ahead of the schedule and knowing what's going to happen, so you can have, those valuable conversations with the trade partners, or even with the owner, for those more hard conversations, if, a scope increase is going to happen, and explaining to the owner if it's, legitimate or not. So resistance, again, the only way to overcome resistance is to, like Mary said, for one, confidence. If you know something and you know it's right, don't let anybody, tell you otherwise. And if you have to say it till you're blue in the face, and then also, if there's a senior or a PX on the site and you have an issue with someone going around you, if they're your equal or maybe below you, and they're male and they're kind of going around you to circumvent the decisions that you have the authority to make. If you have a conversation with that person and that doesn't work, then guess what? You escalate it. So you talk to your project manager, have a one-on-one, hey, you know what? This is, I'm more so, instead of people not wanting to do the ideas, I used to run into that they would take those ideas that I had as their own. So again, in talking about how you don't want to manage, like I make it a very huge point. If somebody is doing something good, you know, I'm giving snaps and accolades, you know, when they're doing an amazing job. So, and even sometimes their ideas are better than mine, because there's always more than one way to skin a cat. But I think that's the most important thing. If someone is doing something, it should be a group effort, and your superior should have your back in those situations. So if you're working together and it's not the relationship, the group hasn't come together as a collective, then yes, that's something that, you know, your manager should know about, because they can help you, you know, that's part of their job. You know, once you're a manager, yeah, you're managing projects, but most of you're managing a team to get it done properly. And so that's more so their responsibility to, you know, get rid of the microaggressions that you might experience on site.
Thank you, Jeanna. And quick note too, for everyone, if you haven't checked out the chat, if you are interested in the TED Talk that Jessica referenced earlier, I believe someone found the link for you. So it is in the chat box if you are interested. Thank you for finding that link for us. We've got a minute here. So thank you everyone for joining. This session is recorded, so I'm sure we'll be releasing it on social media through MS Consultants. So keep an eye on that. Follow us on any social network. Check out our blog as well. And again, to all of our panelists, Jessica, Jeanna, Mary, and Francis, amazing. Love what you're doing. Love your honesty and feedback in this. It's really invaluable to those who have participated, me included. I cannot thank you enough. And I'm excited to see where you all go in the future too. And thank you for all the participants as well. Happy Thursday to everyone, and thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.